What if the biggest limitation to your performance isn't your muscles, your lungs, or even your genetics? What if it's your ability to sustain effort when things become uncomfortable? Whether you're trying to lose weight, improve athletic performance, stay mentally focused throughout the day, or simply maintain energy as you age, endurance sits at the center of all of it. And yet most people misunderstand what endurance actually is. They think endurance means running long distances, cycling for hours, or pushing through exhaustion. But true endurance is much broader than that. It's your ability to maintain physical effort. It's your ability to sustain mental focus. It's your capacity to continue moving toward a goal when your brain is telling you to stop. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Endurance is not controlled by a single system. It's the product of multiple systems working together. Your cardiovascular system, your muscles, your mitochondria, your nervous system, your hormones, your metabolism, and perhaps most importantly, your brain. Many people assume fatigue begins in the muscles, but modern neuroscience shows that the brain plays a major role in determining how long we can sustain effort. In many cases, the body still has resources available long after the brain begins generating sensations of discomfort and fatigue. That doesn't mean we should ignore those signals. It means we should understand them, because when we understand them, we can train them. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a hybrid vehicle. Most people focus exclusively on the engine, the muscles, the lungs, the heart, but the software controlling the vehicle is equally important. The software decides how aggressively resources are used, how much energy is conserved, and when warning signals appear, your brain acts much like that software. It continuously monitors internal conditions and adjusts performance accordingly. This means endurance training is not simply about building stronger muscles. It's about teaching the brain and body to work together more efficiently. What the research shows is that endurance can be improved dramatically through specific forms of training, nutrition, recovery, and nervous system adaptation. And these improvements extend far beyond exercise. Better endurance often means more daily energy, improved metabolic health, better insulin sensitivity, greater resilience to stress, enhanced focus, improved recovery, healthier aging, and a reduced risk of many chronic diseases. Now, here's where many people make a mistake. They focus only on intensity. They believe every workout needs to be exhausting, every session needs to leave them drained. But endurance isn't built by constantly operating at maximum output. It's built by developing the systems that allow sustained output. That's a very different objective. Over the next several sections, we'll break down exactly how endurance works and how to improve it using science-based tools. We'll discuss how mitochondria create energy, why Zone 2 training has become one of the most researched endurance tools, how the brain regulates fatigue, the role of nutrition and metabolic flexibility, why recovery is essential for adaptation, and how to build both physical and mental endurance simultaneously. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day focused on neuroscience, metabolism, longevity, performance, and science-based health optimization. Because once you understand endurance at the physiological level, you stop fighting fatigue and start training the systems that create lasting energy. Now let's explore one of the most fascinating discoveries in modern neuroscience. Fatigue is not simply something that happens in your muscles. It's something your brain helps create. That statement surprises many people because when you're exercising, working, studying, or pushing through a challenging task, it often feels like the body is failing first. But in many situations, the brain begins regulating performance long before the body reaches its true physical limits. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Your brain has one primary objective: keep you alive, not help you set a personal record. Not help you finish a marathon, not help you work 12 productive hours. Its primary concern is survival. To accomplish that, the brain constantly gathers information from throughout the body: heart rate, body temperature, blood glucose, oxygen levels, hydration status, muscle fatigue, stress hormones, and dozens of other physiological signals. It then uses that information to estimate risk. When the brain perceives rising physiological strain, it often generates sensations of discomfort. Not because you're necessarily incapable of continuing, but because it's attempting to protect you. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your brain is like a highly cautious financial advisor. You may have substantial money in your account, but the advisor doesn't want you spending all of it. Instead, the advisor encourages you to conserve resources just in case something unexpected happens later. Your brain treats energy in a similar way. It often creates feelings of fatigue before resources are fully depleted. This protective mechanism is one reason people are capable of extraordinary performance under certain circumstances. When motivation, urgency, or survival becomes important enough, the brain sometimes allows access to reserves that previously seemed unavailable. What the research shows is that endurance performance is influenced not only by physical capacity, but also by perception. How difficult an effort feels can significantly affect performance outcomes. This concept is sometimes called perceived exertion. Two individuals with similar physical fitness may perform very differently depending on how their brains interpret effort. Now, here's where training becomes powerful. Endurance training teaches the brain that specific levels of discomfort are safe. Each time you successfully complete a challenging workout, sustain concentration, or continue despite moderate discomfort, the brain gathers new information. It begins updating its prediction models. The result? Activities that once felt overwhelming begin feeling manageable. Not because the challenge changed, because the brain changed. Now let's discuss mental endurance. The same principles apply. Long periods of concentration require energy. The brain consumes a significant portion of the body's daily energy budget. When focus begins to decline, many people assume they're incapable of continuing. But often they're encountering signals of mental discomfort rather than true cognitive exhaustion. This distinction matters because learning to tolerate moderate discomfort is one of the most effective ways to build endurance. Physical endurance, mental endurance, emotional endurance, all improve through carefully managed exposure to challenge, not overwhelming challenge, progressive challenge. Now here's a practical protocol. A few times each week, intentionally spend time in controlled discomfort. An extra few minutes of exercise, a focused work session without distractions, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding, a cold shower if medically appropriate. The goal isn't suffering. The goal is teaching the brain that discomfort and danger are not the same thing. Over time, the brain becomes more confident, and confidence expands endurance. In the next section, we'll discuss the true engines of endurance, your mitochondria. Because these tiny structures inside your cells largely determine how efficiently your body creates and uses energy. Now let's talk about the true engines of endurance, your mitochondria. Because if endurance is the ability to sustain energy output over time, mitochondria are the structures that make that possible. And the good news is that mitochondria are highly trainable. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Inside nearly every cell are tiny structures called mitochondria. Their primary job is to convert nutrients and oxygen into usable cellular energy known as ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is essentially the energy currency of the body. Every heartbeat, every thought, every muscle contraction, every breath requires ATP. Without it, nothing happens. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your body is a large city. Food represents raw fuel deliveries entering the city, but raw fuel isn't useful until it's processed into electricity. Mitochondria are the power plants that generate that electricity. The more efficient those power plants become, the more energy the city can produce with less strain. This is why endurance is not simply about having bigger muscles or stronger lungs. It's about having highly efficient energy-producing systems. What the research shows is that individuals with greater mitochondrial density and function are often able to sustain effort longer, recover faster, and maintain higher energy levels throughout the day. And this applies far beyond athletics. Healthy mitochondria support physical endurance, mental focus, metabolic health, healthy aging, recovery, and overall vitality. Now, here's something most people don't realize. Mitochondria adapt directly to the demands placed upon them. When you consistently challenge your aerobic system, your body responds by building more mitochondria and improving the function of existing ones. This process is known as mitochondrial biogenesis. In simple terms, your body builds more energy factories because you've demonstrated a need for more energy production. This is one reason endurance training creates such profound health benefits. You're not just training muscles, you're upgrading cellular infrastructure. Now let's discuss metabolic flexibility. A healthy mitochondrion can efficiently utilize multiple fuel sources, glucose, fatty acids, and under certain conditions, ketones. The greater your metabolic flexibility, the easier it becomes to sustain energy production across a variety of conditions. This is one reason endurance-trained individuals often experience more stable energy levels. Their mitochondria become exceptionally efficient at accessing available fuel. Now, here's where many people make a mistake. They constantly seek quick energy, more caffeine, more sugar, more stimulation, but those strategies don't necessarily improve energy production. They often just increase energy consumption. There's a difference. Endurance isn't built by constantly stepping on the accelerator, it's built by upgrading the engine, and mitochondria are a major part of that engine. Now let's discuss practical strategies. The most powerful tool for mitochondrial development is aerobic training performed consistently over time. We'll discuss Zone 2 training in detail next because it may be the single most effective way to stimulate mitochondrial adaptations. Additional supportive factors include quality sleep, adequate protein intake, regular movement throughout the day, managing chronic stress, and maintaining metabolic health. Because mitochondria thrive when the overall physiological environment is healthy. Now here's the key takeaway. Many people think endurance is something you feel, but endurance is first something you build. And one of the most important structures you're building is the mitochondrial network responsible for producing energy at the cellular level. The stronger and more efficient that network becomes, the more physical and mental endurance you can generate. If this is helpful so far, consider subscribing. I post content like this every day focused on science-based tools for improving energy, metabolism, performance, and longevity. In the next section, we'll discuss one of the most powerful and scientifically supported methods for building endurance, Zone 2 training, because this specific training zone appears to create some of the most important adaptations for long-term health and performance. Now let's discuss what many exercise physiologists consider the foundation of endurance development, Zone 2 training. If you were only allowed to choose one type of cardiovascular training for improving endurance, metabolic health, mitochondrial function, and long-term vitality, Zone 2 would be near the top of the list. And yet it's also one of the most misunderstood forms of exercise. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Most people spend too much time exercising at moderate to hard intensities and not enough time building their aerobic foundation. They either train very hard or not at all. But endurance isn't built primarily through exhaustion, it's built through adaptation. And Zone 2 training creates some of the most powerful adaptations available. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're constructing a skyscraper. Most people focus on the upper floors because they're visible. Those upper floors represent speed, power, intensity, and performance. But none of those can exist without a strong foundation. Zone 2 training is the foundation. It strengthens the systems that support everything else: the heart, the lungs, the blood vessels, the mitochondria, and the body's ability to generate energy efficiently. What the research shows is that Zone 2 training significantly improves mitochondrial density and mitochondrial function. Remember what we discussed earlier. Mitochondria are the energy factories of the body. The more effective those factories become, the longer you can sustain effort with less fatigue. Now, what exactly is Zone 2? While different systems define it slightly differently, Zone 2 generally refers to an exercise intensity where you can still hold a conversation, but the conversation requires some effort. You're breathing harder than normal, yet you're not gasping for air. You feel challenged, but sustainable. For most people, this falls somewhere between an easy walk and an all-out run. Examples include brisk walking, cycling, jogging, swimming, rowing, hiking, or any activity performed continuously at a moderate pace. The key is sustainability. You should be able to maintain the effort for an extended period, usually 30 to 90 minutes. Now, here's where Zone 2 becomes particularly valuable. During this training intensity, the body becomes highly efficient at using fat as fuel. This improves metabolic flexibility, and metabolic flexibility is one of the hallmarks of endurance. The ability to seamlessly transition between different energy sources allows you to sustain effort longer without rapid fatigue. In addition, Zone 2 training often improves insulin sensitivity, cardiovascular health, and recovery capacity. This is one reason endurance athletes often exhibit remarkable metabolic health, not because they constantly train hard, but because they spend significant time developing their aerobic systems. Now let's discuss practical implementation. For most people, 2 to 5 Zone 2 sessions per week is an excellent target. Start with 30 minutes if needed. Gradually progress toward 45 to 60 minutes. Consistency matters far more than perfection. You don't need elite fitness, you need repetition. Now here's a mistake many people make. They turn Zone 2 into Zone 3. Every workout becomes slightly too hard. The result is greater fatigue and fewer aerobic adaptations. Remember, the goal isn't to prove fitness. The goal is to build fitness. Those are very different objectives. Now here's the key takeaway. Zone 2 training improves the body's ability to produce energy efficiently. And efficient energy production is the foundation of endurance, not just athletic endurance, mental endurance, metabolic endurance, and even healthy aging. Because the better your body becomes at generating energy, the more capacity you have available for every other aspect of life. Now let's discuss a topic that creates enormous confusion in the health and fitness world: nutrition for endurance. Because many people believe endurance is determined primarily by exercise, but endurance is also determined by how effectively your body creates, stores, and utilizes fuel. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every form of endurance depends on energy availability, and your body has several major energy systems. The most important fuels are glucose, stored glycogen, fatty acids, and under certain conditions, ketones. The question is not whether you have access to energy. Most people do. The question is whether your body can efficiently use the energy it already has. This is where metabolic flexibility becomes incredibly important. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine your home has multiple energy sources: electricity, natural gas, solar panels, and a backup generator. A flexible system can switch between energy sources whenever necessary. A fragile system depends on only one. Your metabolism works similarly. Metabolic flexibility is the ability to efficiently transition between carbohydrates and fats depending on activity demands. When metabolic flexibility is poor, energy crashes become more common, hunger becomes more frequent, performance often declines, and endurance suffers. What the research shows is that endurance-trained individuals tend to develop greater metabolic flexibility. Their bodies become highly efficient at accessing stored energy. This allows them to sustain effort for longer periods with less perceived fatigue. Now let's discuss insulin. Insulin plays a major role in determining fuel availability. When insulin sensitivity is healthy, nutrients move efficiently into cells where they can be used or stored appropriately. But when insulin resistance develops, energy management becomes less efficient. This can affect endurance, recovery, body composition, and overall metabolic health. This is one reason endurance and metabolic health are so closely connected. Now let's talk about body fat. Many people think body fat is simply stored weight. In reality, body fat is stored energy. Even relatively lean individuals carry enough stored fat to fuel many hours or even days of activity. The challenge isn't the amount of energy available. The challenge is the body's ability to access it efficiently. This is why improving metabolic flexibility can be so powerful. Now let's discuss practical nutrition strategies. First, prioritize protein. Protein supports muscle recovery, tissue repair, and adaptation to training. For most active individuals, consuming adequate protein throughout the day is extremely beneficial. Second, focus on whole food nutrition. Lean proteins, vegetables, fruits, healthy fats, legumes, whole grains if tolerated. These foods provide nutrients that support mitochondrial function and overall performance. Third, avoid constant grazing throughout the day. Many people are continuously consuming food without ever allowing normal metabolic transitions to occur. While individual needs vary, establishing structured eating patterns often helps improve metabolic efficiency. Fourth, stay hydrated. Even mild dehydration can negatively affect endurance, cognition, and physical performance. Now let's discuss something important. Endurance isn't about eliminating carbohydrates, nor is it about relying exclusively on carbohydrates. The goal is flexibility. The body should be capable of utilizing multiple fuel sources effectively. This gives you more options and greater resilience under different conditions. Now, here's the key takeaway. Many people think endurance comes from consuming more energy, but true endurance often comes from becoming more efficient with energy. The more metabolically flexible you become, the less dependent you are on constant fuel intake, and the more stable your energy tends to remain. Now let's discuss one of the most misunderstood concepts in performance science: recovery. Because despite what social media often suggests, endurance is not built during training. Endurance is built during adaptation, and adaptation only happens when recovery is sufficient. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every workout creates stress, whether you're performing zone 2 training, resistance training, interval work, or even challenging cognitive tasks. You're temporarily disrupting the body's normal state. That disruption is not the improvement, it's simply the stimulus. The improvement occurs afterward when the body repairs, rebuilds, and adapts. Let me explain this with a simple analogy. Imagine you're renovating a house. The demolition phase is necessary. Walls come down, old materials are removed, the structure is challenged, but demolition alone doesn't improve the house. Improvement happens during reconstruction. Training is demolition. Recovery is reconstruction. Many people become obsessed with training harder. Very few become obsessed with recovering better, and that's often where progress is lost. What the research shows is that inadequate recovery can impair mitochondrial adaptations, increase cortisol, reduce performance gains, worsen sleep quality, and ultimately limit endurance development. In other words, The body cannot adapt efficiently if it's constantly trying to survive accumulated fatigue. Now let's discuss sleep again, because sleep remains the most powerful recovery tool available. During sleep, several critical processes occur. Growth hormone is released, tissue repair accelerates, the nervous system recalibrates, energy stores are replenished, learning and memory are consolidated, and the brain clears metabolic waste products accumulated during waking hours. This is why chronic sleep deprivation often reduces both physical and mental endurance. The body simply never receives enough time to complete the recovery process. Now let's discuss mental endurance. Most people think mental endurance is purely psychological, but neuroscience suggests otherwise. Mental endurance is deeply physiological. The brain consumes a tremendous amount of energy. Extended periods of focus create neural fatigue. Stress hormones rise, attention networks become less efficient, and distractions become increasingly attractive. Sound familiar? This is exactly why many people struggle to focus late in the day, not because they're lazy, because the brain has accumulated fatigue. The good news is that mental endurance can be trained just like physical endurance. The same principle applies: progressive overload, not overwhelming overload. Start by extending focused work periods slightly beyond your comfort zone. Perhaps 25 minutes becomes 35, 30 becomes 45. The goal is not perfection, the goal is adaptation. Each successful exposure teaches the brain that sustained focus is possible. Over time, concentration capacity expands. Now here's a practical recovery protocol. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep, perform regular zone 2 exercise, consume adequate protein, manage daily stress, hydrate consistently, and include at least one lower intensity recovery day each week. Remember, elite performers don't simply train hard, they recover exceptionally well. That's often the difference. Now here's the key takeaway. Endurance is not just the ability to keep going, it's the ability to recover and keep going again, and again, and again. The people with the greatest endurance are often not those who can push the hardest once. They're the people who can consistently show up, recover, adapt, and repeat the process over months and years. That consistency is where extraordinary endurance is built. As we bring everything together, let's return to a powerful idea. Endurance is not simply about lasting longer. It's about becoming more capable, more resilient, more efficient, and more adaptable. Whether you're trying to improve athletic performance, maintain focus throughout a demanding workday, lose fat, increase energy, or support healthy aging, endurance sits at the foundation of all those goals. And as we've discussed today, endurance is far more than a cardiovascular trait. It's a whole body adaptation. It's a whole brain adaptation. We began by exploring how the brain regulates fatigue, not to limit you, but to protect you. Understanding that distinction changes everything, because many sensations of fatigue are not signs that you're incapable of continuing. They're signals that the brain is monitoring effort and managing resources. When you gradually expose yourself to manageable challenges, the brain learns that greater levels of effort are safe, and endurance expands. We then discussed mitochondria, the energy factories inside your cells. These tiny structures determine how efficiently your body converts fuel into usable energy. The stronger your mitochondrial network becomes, the greater your capacity for sustained physical and mental performance. Next, we explored Zone 2 training, one of the most powerful and scientifically supported methods for improving endurance, cardiovascular health, mitochondrial function, metabolic flexibility, and healthy aging. Remember, the goal is not to train harder all the time. The goal is to build a stronger aerobic foundation. We also discussed nutrition and metabolic flexibility, because endurance isn't just about how much fuel you consume. It's about how efficiently your body accesses and uses the fuel it already has. A metabolically flexible body can adapt to changing demands and maintain more stable energy throughout the day. And finally, we covered recovery, the missing piece for many people. Because training creates the stimulus, recovery creates the adaptation. Sleep, hydration, stress management, proper nutrition, and strategic recovery all allow the body and brain to become stronger after challenge. Here's what's really going on inside your body. Every walk, every workout, every focused work session, every night of quality sleep, every nutritious meal, these are signals that teach the body how much endurance capacity it needs to build. So here's your challenge. Choose one endurance building habit today. Maybe it's adding 2 Zone 2 sessions this week. Maybe it's improving your sleep schedule. Maybe it's extending your focused work time by 10 minutes. Maybe it's taking a daily walk after meals. Start small, stay consistent, and track how your energy changes over the next 7 days. Because extraordinary endurance isn't built through occasional heroic effort. It's built through consistent physiological adaptation repeated over time. If this video added value, like the video and subscribe to join thousands of others using science-based tools to optimize energy, performance, metabolic health, focus, and longevity naturally. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.